Starting with the polity section from the month of second quarter of 2023. Now, reservation for women in legislature. The Parliament has passed the 106th Amendment, Constitutional Amendment Act, reserving 33% of the seats for women in Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. So, Rajya Sabha and state legislative councils are not included in here. Now, what are the key provisions of the Act? The salient provisions of the Nari Shakti Adhiniyam 2023 are reservation for women. The Act reserves 1/3 of all seats for women in Lok Sabha, state legislative assemblies, and legislative assemblies of National Capital Territory of Delhi. The reservation will be also extended to the seats reserved for SC/STs in Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. Now, the commencement of the reservation will be effective once the census has been conducted after the commencement of the Act. Based on the census, delimitation will be undertaken to reserve seats for women. Now, the duration of the reservation will be for a period of 15 years. However, the duration of reservation can be extended by Parliament by law. Now, there is a provision for rotation of seats. Seats reserved for women will be rotated after each delimitation as determined by law made by the Parliament. Now, a special session of the Parliament. The government has called a special session for Parliament between September 18 to 22 in 2023. Now, about the setting of the Parliament. A session of the legislature called outside of the conventional legislative session is termed as special session of the Parliament. The date and duration of the parliamentary sessions are determined by Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs, and there is no fixed calendar. The decision of the committee is conveyed to the President and she summons the Parliament accordingly. It has become a convention that the Parliament of India meets for 3 sessions in a year, that is budget session in January to April, May, with a recess in between, monsoon session between July to August, and winter session between November and December. Now, Article 85, the President shall from time to time summon each House of the Parliament to meet at such time and place as he thinks fit, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting in one session and the date appointed for its first sitting in the next session. Now, moving on to the SC judgment regarding prior approval for corruption cases against government officials. Recently, the Supreme Court opined that 2014 judgment invalidating Section 6A of the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act has a retrospective effect. Now, about the Section 6A of DSPE Act. Section 6A was inserted into DSPE Act through Section 26 of the Central Vigilance Commission Act of 2003. The section mandated prior sanction of the union or state government to proceed in corruption cases against the government officer of rank joint secretary or above. The section was added to protect senior officials who need to exercise discretion in decision making from frivolous complaints. Now, the judgment regarding the same is that the Supreme Court held that it is crystal clear that once a law is declared to be unconstitutional, being violative of Part 3, that is fundamental rights of the Constitution, then it would be held to be void ab initio, that is stillborn, unenforceable in view of Article 13, Clause 2 of the Constitution. Hence, Section 6A of the DSPE Act is held not to be in force from the date of its insertion, that is 11th of September 2003. Now, about the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI is a non-statutory crime investigating agency functioning under the Ministry of Personnel, Pension and Public Grievances. The CBI derives its power to investigate under Section 2 of the DSPE Act, that is Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946. The central government can extend its jurisdiction of the agency under the Section 5 of the Act, but the consent of the state government is necessary under Section 6 of the Act. It has 3 divisions, which are Anti-Corruption, Economic Offences and Special Crime Division. It is also the nodal police agency in India for coordinating investigations with Interpol member countries. Now, moving on to citizenship in India, the Ministry of Home Affairs Order 2022-21 has empowered the collectors from certain districts in the states of Gujarat, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab. So these states are bordering Pakistan and Chhattisgarh is the outlier over here, for registration to become a citizen of India and grant certificate of naturalization. Now, citizenship through naturalization is granted under Section 5 and 6 of Citizenship Amendment Act of 1955, respectively. It is applicable to any person belonging to the minority community in Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Citizenship by naturalization can be acquired by foreigners and not illegal immigrants, given who is ordinarily resident in India for 12 years throughout the period of 12 months immediately preceding the date of application, and for 11 years in aggregate in the 14 preceding years, the 12 months. So sigma 14 is equals to 11 plus 1 is equals to 12 years. So 12 years in total, 14 years in aggregate, 12 years in total, 14 years is the period provided for it, and 11 years can be spread out in the 14 year period, and 1 year has to be continuous, it has to be throughout the period of 1 year before the application of the naturalization. Now, Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023. It has been passed by the Parliament. The aim is to process digital personal data in manner that recognizes both the right of the individual to protect their personal data and the need to process such personal data for lawful purposes and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Now, key features of the Digital Personal DPDP Act of 2023. Now, applicability. The Act applies to the processing of digital or non-digital data, which will be subsequently digitalized personal data within India. It also applies to the processing of personal data outside India if it is for offering goods or services in India. Now, there is a provision of consent, that is, personal data may be processed only for a lawful purpose after obtaining the consent of the individual. Notice must be given for seeking consent. Consent may be withdrawn at any point of time. Consent will not be required for legitimate use defined in the Act. For individuals under the age of 18 years of age, consent will be provided by the parents or legal guardians. Now, certain terms associated with the Act. Data principal is an individual whose data is being processed. Data fiduciary is the person or companies and government entities who can process the data. Data Protection Board of India. The Act provides for establishment of a Data Protection Board of India. Its key function is monitoring compliance, imposing penalties, directing data fiduciaries to take necessary measures in event of data breach, and hearing grievances. Appeals against the decision of the board will lie with Telecom Dispute Settlement and Appellate Tribunal. Now, rights of the data principal. Data principals will have the right to obtain information about processing, seek correction, erasure of personal data. They may appoint proxies, that is another person to exercise rights in event of death or incapacity, and grievance redressal. Now, duties of the data principals. They must not register a false or frivolous complaint, furnish any false particulars, or impersonate any other person as specified in the cases. Violation of duties will be punishable. Transfer of personal data outside India. The Act allows transfer of personal data outside India except to countries restricted by the central government through notification. Now, certain exemptions are provided. The central government may exempt certain activities from the application of the Act. These include processing by government entities in the interest of security of the state, public order, research, archiving, and statistical purposes. Now, there is a provision for penalty as well. The Act specifies penalties for various offences. Example, up to 200 crores for non-fulfillment of obligation for children, 250 crore for failure to take security measures to prevent data breaches. Now, bringing political parties under the purview of RTI Act. The Supreme Court is hearing a batch of petitions seeking a declaration that national and regional parties are public authorities under the RTI Act. In June of 2013, CIC, Chief Information Commissioner, declared then 6 national parties as public authorities within the purview of RTI Act. Accordingly, these political parties were directed to designate Chief Public Information Officers, CPIOs, and appellate authorities at their headquarters in 6 weeks' time. The political parties have not complied with the CIC order. Now, CIC order on political parties. Since the funding of national parties have been substantially financed by the central government, hence considered public authority under Section 2 subclause H of RTI Act, they are allotted land in Delhi and other state capitals. Accommodations and bungalows are provided on concessional rates. They enjoy total tax exemption under Section 13A of Income Tax Act. They have a public character, that is, elections are conducted on party basis and political parties affect the lives of citizens directly or indirectly in every conceivable way. Now, constitutional and legal provisions. The political parties are required to be registered with ECI, Election Commission of India, under Section 29A of ROP Act of 1951. Representation of People Act 1951. So political parties can recommend disqualification of members of houses in certain core agencies under 10 schedules. Moving on to Parliamentary Select Committee. There was a controversy regarding the names of MP being proposed for a select committee for Delhi Service Bill without their consent. Now, about parliamentary select committees, the parliament has several types of committees which discharge different functions. Standing committees are permanent in nature. Ad hoc committees are set up for a specific purpose, like examining a bill, are dissolved once the purpose is served. A select committee is an ad hoc committee. Now, functions of select committee is to have detailed examination, ensuring clarity, gathering inputs, understanding policy, and formulating conclusions. So the committee reviews and deliberates the bill, going through each clause. Ensuring clarity, it ensures that the bill accurately represents the intended purpose and goals. Gathering inputs, the committee can request opinions from experts, individuals, groups, either in writing or through discussions. Understanding the policy, it may ask government officials to explain the bill's intention and provide necessary information. Formulating conclusions, after thorough discussion, the committee reaches conclusion and might make changes to the bill's clauses. Now, procedure to be followed for a select committee under Rule 125 of the Rajya Sabha Rules and Procedure. Any member may move an amendment that a bill be referred to a select committee. According to the Rajya Sabha rules, on a motion moved in and adopted by the House, bills from time to time are referred to select committee. The members on which are specified by name in the motion itself. The members of the select committee on a bill are appointed by the House when the motion that the bill be referred to a select committee is made. No member is appointed to a select committee if she is not willing to serve on the committee. The mover has to ascertain whether the member proposed by her is willing to serve on the committee or not. The rule says that the proposed member's consent has to be taken before he or she can serve on a select committee. Number of members in a select committee. The membership of a select committee is not fixed and varies from committee to committee. The chairperson of the committee is appointed by the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha and the speaker in case of Lok Sabha among the members of the committee itself. Now, working of the select committee, the quorum of each sitting needs to be 1/3 of the total membership of the committee. In case of equality of votes on any matter, the chairperson of the committee or any other person presiding, so the presiding member, will have a second or casting vote. A select committee may appoint a subcommittee to examine any special points connected with the bill. The report of the committee is recommendatory in nature. The government can choose to accept or reject its recommendations. A select committee can include its version of the bill. If they do so, minister in charge of that particular bill can move for the committee's version of the bill to be discussed and passed in the House. Now, Master of Roster System. The Supreme Court's handling of the Ritu Chhabria judgment has raised concerns regarding the functioning of the Master of Roster System. What is the meaning of the Master of Roster? The Chief Justice of India is the Master of Roster. Certain administrative powers have been granted to CJI for smooth functioning of the Supreme Court. The CJI has the privilege to constitute benches to hear the cases. So this is the role of the Master of Roster. Other judges do not hear the cases on their own but are allocated by CJI. What is the position of CJI in relation to other judges? Within the constitutional scheme, all judges of the Supreme Court are equal in terms of their judicial power. In any bench that includes CJI, the vote or power given to CJI is the same as his companion judges. On numerous occasions, the CJIs have authored or have been part of minority judgments. The CJI has administrative responsibilities as the Master of Roster. He is considered as first among equals in relation to companion judges. Most Commonwealth countries like UK, Australia, Canada follow this system. The US has a different system where all the judges collectively exercise power and render decisions as they sit in block. Now, review versus recall. In review petition, the court considers on merit. So merit is considered whether there has been an error apparent on the face of the record. The court considers if it has failed to consider any binding precedents or if some grave injustice have been caused as a consequence of its decision. According to the Supreme Court rules of 2013, a review petition must be filed within 30 days after the original judgment and must be placed before the same bench. In recall, the court does not go into the merits but simply recalls an order which has been passed without giving an opportunity of hearing to the affected party. Now, internet shutdowns in India. The Supreme Court sought compliance from the government with respect to its judgment in Anuradha Basin case. Now, what are the legal provisions for internet shutdown? Until 2017, there was no distinct codified law to order internet shutdown. The power to do so was vested in the district magistrate under section 144 of the Code of Criminal Procedure. Now, section 5 of the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885 can be interpreted broadly to mean that the government has power to impose internet shutdowns. It allows the government to block or intercept messages transmitted through telegraph under certain circumstances. The temporary suspension of telecom services, public emergency or public safety rules of 2017 have been notified under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. The rules state that internet shutdowns can be ordered by the Home Secretary of Union or state governments. The shutdowns could be ordered where necessary or unavoidable during public emergency or in interest of public safety. Now, judicial view on temporary suspension of telecom services rules of 2017. The Supreme Court laid down a set of guidelines to regulate the internet shutdown order in Anuradha Basin versus Union of India 2020 case. The government held that the freedom of speech and expression and the freedom of trade and commerce through the medium of internet are constitutionally protected rights under Article 19(1)(a) and 19(1)(g) of this constitution. Now, the Supreme Court ruled that indefinite suspension of internet service would be illegal and that orders for internet shutdown must satisfy the test of necessity and proportionality. The government was empowered to impose a complete internet shutdown, and any other imposing such restrictions had to be made public and would be subject to judicial review. After the judgment, the rules were revised in 2020, making it obligatory that any suspension ordered issued must not remain in effect for more than 15 days. All such orders would be made public. Now, regulation of OTT communication service providers and platforms. TRAI has opened discussion on regulating over-the-top communication service providers like WhatsApp, Facebook, Telegram, etc. What is the rationale for regulating OTT communication services? Now, telecom service providers like Jio, Airtel, Vodafone, etc. and OTT service providers like WhatsApp offers similar services. OTT service providers are not bound by the same requirements as telecom service providers. There is a need for regulatory parity. Now, TSP need a service license for offering voice and SMS service. OTT service providers offers messaging, voice and video call services without any such license. TSPs are regulated by several laws like Indian Telegraph Act of 1885, Wireless Telegraph Act of 1933, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India Act of TRAI Act of 1997, and have to adhere to requirements such as lawful interceptions. Such requirements are not applicable to OTT service providers at present. OTT services do not financially contribute towards increasing telecom service penetration in countries, unlike the telecom service providers who have to pay towards the Universal Service Obligation Fund. Now, for grievance redressal mechanism, there is a three-tier mechanism. The level 1 is at the level of publisher. A grievance officer has to be appointed. Then level 2 is a self-regulating body, which is an independent body constituted by the publisher and is headed by a retired Supreme Court or High Court judge and expert members from the field. There is also an oversight mechanism from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, which will constitute an interdepartmental committee. Now, moving on to the powers of a governor to dismiss a minister. The governor of Tamil Nadu had dismissed a minister in Council of Ministers without a recommendation by the chief minister. The decision was retracted later. Now, about the powers of the governor to dismiss a minister, under Article 164, the chief minister is appointed by the governor without any advice. The Council of Ministers is appointed by the governor on advice of the chief minister. The ministers hold the office at the pleasure of the governor. However, in the constitutional arrangement, the governor is a constitutional head and acts only in aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. Dr. Ambedkar had clarified that the governor under the constitution has no executive functions to perform independently and should always act on aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The pleasure of the governor is independent. In independent India is not the same as the colonial governor. So the governor can dismiss a minister only on the advice of chief minister. Now, Article 163, Clause 1, there shall be a council of ministers with the chief minister at the head to aid and advise the governor in exercise of his function, except in so far as he is by or under this constitution required to exercise his functions or any of them in his discretion. Some of them are legislative functions and recommendation as to breakdown of constitutional machinery in the state. Now, 164 Clause 1, the chief minister shall be appointed by the governor and other ministers shall be appointed by the governor on the advice of the chief minister. The ministers shall hold office during the pleasure of the governor. Now, moving on to the Madras High Court judgment regarding Article 355. The Madras High Court has held that High Court do not have the power under Article 226 to issue a direction to the Union government to invoke Article 355. Now, Article 355, it shall be the duty of the Union to protect every state against external aggression and internal disturbance and to ensure that government of every state is carried out in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. Now, about the case, a petition was filed in the Madras High Court seeking an order to invoke Article 355 in Tamil Nadu in wake of alleged failure to maintain public peace during search and arrest of a minister. The petitioners sought an order from the High Court to the Secretary of the Governor to forward a representation to the President's office to invoke Article 355 so that the centre could intervene in the affairs of the state government. The High Court dismissed the petition. The High Court said that the High Court do not have the power to issue directions to the centre to invoke Article 355 of the Constitution, as it is a part of policy decision on the part of executive. Any decision would be violation of separation of power. Now, use of VVPAT machines. A petition has been filed by ADR, that is Association for Democratic Reforms, in the Supreme Court seeking 100% counting of VVPAT, that is voter verifiable paper audit trails. VVPAT is a ballotless system connected to an electronic voting machine. It acts as a verification tool for a voter to ensure that her vote has been correctly recorded against the candidate of her choice. When a voter casts her vote, VVPAT prints a paper slip displaying the name of the candidate voted and the symbol of her political party. The slip is displayed for approximately 7 seconds through a transparent window and goes into a sealed box in the machine thereafter. It was first used in all 21 polling stations of Noksen Assembly constituency of Nagaland in 2013, after which the Election Commission of India decided to introduce VVPAT in a phased manner. From June 2017, 100% of the VVPATs began to be used in polls. 2019 Lok Sabha election became the first general election to have 100% of the EVMs attached to VVPATs. The Supreme Court previously had directed the Election Commission to increase random checking of VVPAT slips to 5 per assembly segments from 1 EVM in every assembly segment or constituencies. Now, some to the point material. Now, fundamental rights. Supreme Court said that all accused have the right to silence and investigators cannot force them to speak up or admit guilt. Article 20, Clause 3 states that no one can be compelled to be a witness against himself. Protection is limited only to criminal proceedings. Now, zero FIR. When a police station receives a complaint regarding an alleged offence that has been committed in a jurisdiction of another police station, it registers an FIR and then transfer it to the relevant police station for further investigation. This is called a zero FIR. The concept of zero FIR was introduced based on the recommendation of Justice Verma Committee to recommend amendments to criminal law. Now, Jan Vishwas Amendment provision Act of 2023 aims to decriminalize around 180 offences by amending 42 laws across sectors including environment, agriculture, media, industry, publication. Some of the acts that are being amended include the Drug and Cosmetic Acts of 1940, Public Debt Act of 1944, Copyright Act of 1957, Patents Act of 1970, Environmental Protection Act of 1986, Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. The Act removes all offences under Post Office Act of 1898. Now, Rohini Commission was set up in line with Article 340 of the Indian Constitution to examine the subcategorization of other backward classes and has submitted its report to the President. Article 340 deals with the need to inter alia identify those socially and educationally backward classes, understand the condition of their backwardness, and to make recommendations to remove the difficulties they face. Now, the Cinematography Amendment Act of 2023 has submitted UA category with 3 categories to also indicate age appropriate, that is under adult supervision 7 plus, 13 plus, and 16 plus subcategories. The non-amended act earlier had 4 certification categories, that is without restriction U, without restrictions but subject to guidance from parent or guardian for children below 12 years of age, that is UA, only to adults, that is A, and only to members of any profession or class of persons, that is S. So now we have 4 plus 2. That is 6. Now, the Amendment Act provides that certifications be perpetually valid. That'll be all for this video. Thank you.